If you're looking for a house, you should be looking for a mortgage.
Throughout 2010, Sinister One got a lot better at the game and lowered each of his 14 times down, but they still remained comfortably behind Turk's times. Thankfully though, he got some help later that year. A player known as A12 was interested in the Hippo record, which was another one that Turk had reached the theoretical lowest time on, 37.61. To pull it off, however, was another story. King Hippo is a super random fighter. On any punch he throws, he can either open his mouth or not. He has a 3 in 8 chance of opening on any given punch, and you can only hit Hippo when he opens his mouth. He needs to open his mouth 3 times in order for you to deal enough damage to beat him, so to get the fastest time possible, you need Hippo to open his mouth on each of the first 3 times he throws a punch. That's 3/8 times 3/8 times 3/8, or about 5.27%. But that's not all. Half the time, he also does a delay between his second and third punches. To get Turk's time of 37 seconds, he can't do that delay, which cuts the odds in half. So the sheer odds in getting the luck needed for this time were only about 2.64%. The execution was extremely precise as well, because of how the in-game timer works. It ticks faster than a real second, with an in-game second being made up of about 20 individual frames, or a third of a real second. For some reason, the programmers only made certain decimals possible to achieve on each fight: 0.00, 0.25, 0.48, 0.61, 0.82, 0.97, and 0.99. If you end the fight in the first few frames of an in-game second, you get 0.00. In the next few frames, you get 0.25, and so on all the way to 0.99. His time of 37.61 meant he could lose up to 2 frames before actually losing time and getting a 37.82. On average, you have to hit Hippo on either the first or second frame he opens his mouth on each punch. That is some really precise timing. Now keep in mind, even if you're able to execute that precisely, you only have a 1 in 40 chance of getting the correct pattern from Hippo. Sinister One's fastest time was a 37.97. But in October 2010, A12 came through and tied Turk's 37.61, which I mentioned before can't go lower at all. What's crazy is that even with all that randomness and execution, that was still considered one of Turk's easier records to match. With that, the Punch-Out community had managed to take down 3 of Turk's times. But these 3 all had something in common. Of Turk's 14 records, it was known that 4 of them were at their theoretical limit and couldn't be beaten, only tied. It had been known for years that you couldn't go under 42.00 on Glass Joe, under 14.97 on Don Flamenco, and under 37.61 on King Hippo, and all 3 of those times stand as the world records even today. But for most of the remaining fights, the limit on how low humans could go was unknown. Turk's times were incredible, but for most of them it was at least theoretically possible to take them a decimal lower. But in order to do that, you would need to either beat Turk's execution, or get better luck, or both. Enter Mr. Sandman. Turk's Sandman time was 220.00, the slowest of all 14 fights, but that doesn't mean it was his worst. You can't get star punches on Mr. Sandman to deal damage quickly, so even beating him in the first round is hard. We'll get into the actual strategy behind this fight soon, but in 2010, Sinister One was able to tie Turk's 220. It seemed like it was just another Turk time down, but then Turk actually responded and beat Sinister's time with a claimed 219.48, once again with no video. Sinister would get a 219.97 that wasn't recorded, but he couldn't compete against a 219.48. So Turk was back on top, and his time once again stood unrivaled. Until a guy named Zallard1 got his hands on the game.
Yes, dude, holy shit. What?
Zallard began playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out seriously in early 2013. One fight he gravitated to early on was none other than Mr. Sandman. This fight from July 2013 shows his strategy to beat Mr. Sandman quickly. Fights in Punch-Out can be broken down into phases, with Phase 1 being up until the boxer's first knockdown, Phase 2 being until the second knockdown, and Phase 3 being until the TKO. The first phase of the fight involves dodging out of the way of Sandman's rolling jabs and hitting him in the face. You also get hit a couple of times on purpose, and you'll see why later. There's two 50-50 random delays Sandman could do, and he did one of them, leading to a 120 first knockdown. Phase 2 involved hitting Sandman a bit more, then a random delay from Sandman before his Dreamland Express pattern. 3 extremely quick uppercuts that you have to avoid getting hit by. Zallard got the shortest delay from Mr. Sandman and then pressed left up, and left up really quickly in sequence to dodge the Dreamland Express. This allowed him to hit Mr. Sandman in the gut 18 times in a row to deal damage extremely quickly and send him down for a second time. Now here's where getting hit comes into play. It turns out that Mr. Sandman is programmed to do another Dreamland Express pattern if Little Matt gets knocked down at 159 or later into the fight. So a player named Jack Wedge figured out that by pressing select before the fight to lower your health to half, taking damage early in the fight, and then getting knocked down on purpose after Sandman's second knockdown, you can end the fight quickly after he does a second Dreamland Express.
Yes. Fuck yes, dude. Oh my god. Holy shit. What the fuck? Oh my god. I can't believe that.
This time from Zallard tied Sinister's 219, but he could still save a second in phase 1 by not getting the random delay that Sandman gave him. But adding all that luck up across all 3 phases got crazy. He needed neither of Sandman's phase 1 delays, the shortest delay for the first Dreamland Express, then a good health refill from Mr. Sandman for phase 3, and the short delay for his last Dreamland Express. That put the odds at 2.34%. But even once Zallard got all of that luck, he also needed to just not mess up.
Yes! Oh my god. What is it? What is it? What is it? Holy shit, dude. Oh my god. I did it. I actually, this is it. I beat him at Turkton.
At long last, one of Turk's times had actually been beaten. Zallard 1 was the guy to do it, and his time was celebrated across the Punch-Out community. It broke new ground, and made Turk seem not invincible for the first time since Sinister came onto the scene in 2010. It had taken 3 years for anybody to officially beat any of Turk's records. 4 times down, but Turk still had 10 records all to himself. One of Turk's finest times was his Piston Honda 2 record, 50.97. This time was remarkably close to the tool-assisted record for Honda 2, which was 50.25 seconds. A tool-assisted speedrun, or TAS, can create a theoretically perfect time by using save states, slowing down time, and even going frame by frame to enter inputs. 50.25 wasn't a real speedrun, but a demonstration of the fastest time possible, and Turk was just frames away from matching it. He was able to get it by doing guard manipulation, where you can fuse Piston Honda by tapping and releasing up at strategic points to move his guard around so he can't block max punches. It's extremely difficult, and at one point requires a frame-perfect punch to the face while his guard is in a moment of weakness. Matt Turk's time mirrored the theoretical tool-assisted time, probably just losing a bit of time from losing frames from imperfect execution. Needless to say, beating Turk's Honda 2 time was nearly impossible, so it stood unrivaled with all of his other records. Meanwhile, in the years following Sinister 1's initial Punch-Out grind, he had focused much of his efforts playing single segment, where you play the game from start to finish and add up your times in each of the 14 fights. He streamed his attempts live on his Twitch channel, and people had gotten used to him speedrunning the full game. But then one day in August 2013, he just started up a stream of Piston Honda 2 world record attempts. Keep in mind, Turk's record is 50.97, and it was impossible to go under 50.25, so there wasn't much room to get a world record. At least, that's what everybody thought.
That's it. That's it. That's it. I just beat the fucking Taz. Oh my god, I'm holding start so hard right now. I'm holding start more than I've ever held it in my life. Yes! Fuck yes! Fuck yes! Fuck yes! I just beat the Taz. I just beat the motherfucking Taz, dude. Oh my god. It's gonna be a low 48. 48 flat. Oh my god, dude. Oh my god. I can't believe this is real.
He had just beaten the theoretically perfect tool-assisted speedrun by more than 2 seconds. Sinister had just pulled off a fight with his own 2 hands faster than anybody had been able to even theoretically figure out with an emulator. What had just happened? Well, unknown to everyone watching his stream, a few days prior, someone had figured out how to beat that theoretical Piston Honda 2 record. His name was McHazard, and after discovering it, he privately messaged Sinister One to tell him about his findings. The main issue with the old tool-assisted time was here in Phase 2, where he had to wait a long time before throwing a star punch. Honda normally starts dodging any star punches you throw at him after the third one, but if you wait to throw it until he's doing his appropriately named eyebrow pattern, it'll land and deal damage. So, the tool-assisted record had to stand still and wait until the eyebrow pattern began. McHazard figured out a way around that. He discovered that Piston Honda 2 has a bizarre mechanic that few other fighters in the game have: max damage uppercuts. When Honda's guard is down, you can press up and start to throw a star punch uppercut, then let go of up when Honda brings his gloves up. For whatever reason, if performed correctly, then not only can Honda not dodge this punch, but it also deals more damage than a normal star punch. So, Sinister simply implemented this max damage star punch when he would normally be waiting for the eyebrow pattern in Phase 2, and sent him down about 5 seconds faster than normal. Over the following months, McHazard would broaden his search for faster strategies to all 14 fights, and ultimately made a new, faster tool-assisted speedrun of the entire game. It featured improvements to 8 of the 14 fights, meaning 8 fights now had new theoretical load times that humans could try to get closer to. For the past few years, the only times of Turk that had been toppled were ones that were already theoretically perfect, or ones that were more obviously imperfect like Mr. Sandman. But with this new tool-assisted speedrun, the horizon expanded so much. McHazard had completely changed the playing field. It was time to see what else these players could do. The next big push to beat Matt Turk's times came during 1 week in April 2014, where 3 of Turk's records were about to go down. It's here we see just how important McHazard's task was going to be. Coincidentally though, the first one had nothing to do with his tasks. I mentioned before there was a 4th record Turk had set that was at its theoretical limit. That fight was Great Tiger, with his time of 47.48. Remember how Don Flamenco has that frame-perfect punch to get a star? Well, Great Tiger has 4 of them. After punching Tiger in the face, you dodge out of the way of his jab, then wait until the last frame before he would block and punch him in the face. If you hit the perfect frame, then you get a star punch, before having to repeat this process 3 more times in the first phase. Thankfully, phases 2 and 3 are free. Great Tiger gets up on a 1 count twice, which means a single star punch from Little Mac will send him down automatically. There's no randomness in this fight, and thanks to a couple of timing strategies Zalor discovered to time a couple of the punches late in phase 1, the only difficult part of the fight is the 4 face punches. But keep in mind, you have a 60th of a second to time each of them. Someone just had to grind the fight out until they got the 4 frame perfect punches, and on April 5th, Zalor was able to pull it off. He got a 47.48, tying Matt Turk and the theoretical perfect time. Meanwhile, Sinister One was working on his own project. Matt Turk's Piston Honda 1 time of 42.97 was a bit of a mystery, since it was one of very few fights where he didn't reveal his strategy. However, thanks to McHazard's new tasks, Sinister was able to come up with an even better one. Phase 1 was a variation of a strategy Sinister had discovered years prior, using heavy guard manipulation to sneak in punches all over and get stars. Key parts to this phase included landing a gut punch at the start with a 3-frame timing window, sneaking in an extra gut punch toward the end of the phase that had a 25% chance of going through, then not getting blocked at all on the last 3 face punches, which is about 50%. Honda gets up on a 1 count for phase 2, so a single star punch was enough to send him down right away. At the start of phase 3, Sinister would do a max damage star punch similar to the ones McHazard found on Piston Honda 2, then hit him in the face and do a couple of star punches. With a good health refill from Honda, it would be enough to get a low 42 second time and beat Matt Turk by just a little bit. The odds in getting this fight were under 5% from randomness alone, not taking into account the rather difficult execution. Nonetheless, Sinister very quickly got a run to Phase 3, but unfortunately the bad refill from Honda meant he had to delay a couple of star punches and get a 43 instead of a 42.
Fuck. I got the bad refill. Yeah, 43 flat. God damn it. I got the bad refill, guys. Got the bad refill.
Sinister was getting really close. He was now just 0.03 of a second away from taking another Turk time down. All he needed was to get that good refill in Phase 3. But then, quite literally out of nowhere, this happened.
Shouldn't I just quit right now while I'm ahead? No, fuck that. Let's do the Von Kaiser IL strat. See if I can do it again. There we go. Holy fucking shit, dude. I think I just did it. Oh my god. What is happening? Oh my god. 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 Oh my fucking god, dude. Oh my god. 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 Oh my fucking god, dude. Oh my god. How? How is this possible?
If you recall from before, 35.97 matched Turk's Von Kaiser time. Where did that come from? Well, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out has no level select, and you aren't allowed to use save states to get to whichever fight you want. There is a password system, but passwords only exist for a handful of the 14 fights. So the fastest way to get to Piston Honda was to start a new game and beat both Glass Joe and Von Kaiser before getting your one shot at Piston Honda. If it didn't work, you'd have to lose intentionally and then beat Von Kaiser again just to get another shot. Sinister randomly decided to go for this newly discovered Phase 1 strategy that McHazard had found, and it happened to pay off. It involved precisely tapping up at certain moments to manipulate Von Kaiser's guard up so that all of the punches went through. He also had to get a random 50-50 star in Phase 2, and very precisely duck under a punch in Phase 1 and Phase 3 by double tapping down. He also had to time the first punch of Phase 2 on the first frame possible. In order to get a 35.97, he had to lose no more than a handful of frames across all of those locations. And on literally his first attempt after getting the Phase 1 strat to work, he got all of that. It was incredible. And a couple of days after that, Sinister was able to get his good refill on Honda 1.
This is it. This is it. This is it. This is it. Rip, Turk, you are done. I got the 42. Fuck yeah. 0.2 fucking 5, baby. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Get hype.
And with that, over the course of 4 days, thanks to the combined efforts of Sinister, Zallard, and McHazard, 3 of Turk's times went down. But of course, Matt Turk still held 6 untied records, and the more they played, the more these 6 times seemed ridiculously impressive. Keep in mind that some of the game's top players have been trying for 4 years now, and they were only able to match or beat about half of them. Let's take a look at Turk's Don Flamenco 2 time, 123.97. This one was a bit of a unique case. Skill-wise, it was actually one of the easiest times in the game, but luck-wise, it was absolutely brutal. See, the way Don 2 works is whenever he's about to throw a punch, you can hit him while he's winding up either in the gut or in the face. On the first punch you throw, and every 7th punch after that, you'll get a guaranteed star. On every punch between, as long as you're holding a star, you have a 1 in 16 chance in getting another star. And believe me, that is horrible from a speedrunning perspective. For example, you can theoretically get 3 random stars in a row on Dawn 2, which would be great, but your odds in that are 1 in 4096. His health refill in Phase 2 is also random. There's a 1 in 8 chance he gives the lowest health refill, a 3 in 8 chance he gives a middle refill, and a 4 in 8 chance he gives the bad refill. If you press select before the fight to lower your health to half, as speedrunners often do on this fight, that also makes his Phase 3 refill random, with just a 1 in 8 chance he gets up with the smallest amount of health. Why the programmers made Dawn 2 like this is unknown. It's not like anybody would pay attention to these random stars or refills when casually playing the game. But it leads to some pretty ridiculous fights if you get the luck. The tool-assisted speedrun of Dawn 2 gets 5 random stars and both of the low 1 in 8 refills, achieving a time of under a minute. The odds of getting those stars and refills is about 1 in 6.7 million. Turk's 123.97 was much slower, but Punch-Out players worked out that beating it still required odds of about 1 in 176. They would need a random star from one of the first 2 opportunities, then the middle 3 in 8 refill in Phase 2, then finally the 1 in 8 low refill in Phase 3. Someone just had to grind it out, and the guy who did it was a fairly unknown Punch-Out runner named Cananaphone, whose specialty was speedrunning The Legend of Zelda. But he had also done some work in Punch-Out, and for some reason he gravitated toward fighting Dawn 2. And on May 28, 2014, after hundreds of attempts, he got all of the luck to align.
Fuck yeah. There we go. There we go. Hey, beat Dawn 2.
He had only beaten Turk by 1 decimal, but that didn't matter. Dawn 2 was done, and another of Turk's times had fallen. Matt Turk still had 5 times left. These remaining times had each stood unbeaten for more than half a decade. In that same length of time, the Ocarina of Time record had been lowered by 55 minutes, Super Metroid had been lowered by 5 minutes, and Super Mario Bros. Had been lowered by, well, 2 seconds. But the fact that even serious efforts from several of the world's top Punch-Out players hadn't been able to break these 5 times was just extraordinary. One of the most brutal times remaining was Turk's Bald Bull 1 fight. It featured a combination of crazy luck, really precise timings, and the need for persistence. Turk said it took him over 1,000 attempts to achieve this time. Keep in mind, to get an attempt at Bald Bull, you have to put in the password for Don Flamenco 1, then beat him, King Hippo, and Great Tiger. So, it took him a really long time to get his 58.99. The way he did it was by simply attempting to replicate the tool-assisted fight as closely as he could, and it was a brutal strategy indeed. It involved needing 3 random 50-50 stars throughout the fight, 2 specific patterns from Bald Bull, and numerous frame-perfect or close-to frame-perfect punches throughout. The odds worked out to just a 2.3% chance, or about 1 in 43. There's actually been some confusion over what Turk's exact time was, initially being reported as a 57.99, but years later being changed to a 58.99. But regardless, this time just seemed brutal to beat. And then McHazard came along and changed everything. In his tool-assisted speedrun, one of the 8 fights that McHazard improved was Bald Bull 1. And a few months later, Zallard used it to do attempts to beat Turk's 58.99. McHazard's Phase 1 was discovered by Martin Charlebois 15 years before his task came out. It involved alternating face punches to get stars and using star punches into his rolling jabs. It was easy, it had no randomness, and it always got Bull down at 17 seconds with 1 star. Phase 2 was a bit tougher. You need a 50-50 random star at the start of the phase, then land a 2-frame punch just as Bull is lowering his guard and get another random star just after. You then need a 25% pattern where Bull throws more rolling jabs and can send him down with 3 stars in your inventory. For Phase 3, Zallard used a slightly safer version of McHazard's fight. To pull it off, you need the 75% pattern without rolling jabs, then depending on his pattern after, potentially need to land a frame-perfect star punch after his uppercut. That's a 1/60th of a second window to time it. Across all 3 phases, that works out to odds of about 1 in 21, about twice as good as Turk's fight, and the execution was a bit easier too. So, Zallard set out to improve Turk's time, and on June 22nd, 2014, he came through and got a 57.00, beating Turk by nearly a full second. Keep in mind though, McHazard's task time was 55.25, so although Turk was off of his task by about 0.15, Zallard was slower than his by almost 2 full seconds. That's how much McHazard's strat was able to help. For Bald Bolt 2, it was once again McHazard to the rescue. Turk achieved his time of 121.82 by landing extremely random punches called bulldozers. When Bull's guard is down, if you hit him in the face but let go of up while the punch is going off, it's possible the punch will get through his guard and hit him for a star. Problem is, when I say possible, I mean it has a 1 in 16 chance of actually going through. It was possible to beat Matt Turk's time using 2 bulldozers and getting a specific pattern from Bull after, but the odds in it were over 1 in 1,000. So McHazard found a way around it. When Bull's guard is up, he found you can punch him in the gut and tap up while the punch is going off to potentially sneak the punch through his guard. It was called a misdirected gut punch, and you could do it whenever you'd normally do a bulldozer. And rather than a 1 in 16 chance in going through, the misdirected gut punch had a 1 in 4 chance. So instead of odds of over 1 in 1,000 of beating Turk's time, the odds were only about 1 in 64. That was enough to get Sinister to start grinding to beat it. The execution wasn't too hard. The 2 rolling jab counters at the start were the hardest part, and they each had a 3-frame window. On July 5th, 2014, Sinister 1 took down Matt Turk's 11th world record.
World record! World fucking record, dude! Yes! Fuck yes. 120.82.
Thanks to McHazard, both of the Bald Bull records went down in the span of about 2 weeks. Matt Turk now only had 3 untied records to his name: Soda Popinski, Super Macho Man, and Mike Tyson. These 3 records had stood the test of time. These 3 records had stood through thousands of attempts from top players in the world. These 3 records stood head and shoulders above each of the other 11 records Matt Turk had set. To see why, let's take a look at that Super Macho Man time, 48.82. So, the good news about this fight. There's a password that you can put in that sends you straight there. That made it so you could do a lot of attempts really quickly. The bad news, the execution was really hard, and the luck needed was the worst of all 14 fights. Let's break it down. Macho's usual pattern is to throw 5 punches before standing still for a while in the build up to his mini spin pattern, where he spins around quickly and tries to punch you. For the first 5 punches of the fight, the first, second, fourth, and fifth punches all need to be uppercuts for Turk's strategy to work. So, Turk's strategy was to raise his guard and punch him in the gut, then intercept his first uppercut with a punch to the face before he ducks down. His second uppercut is then taken care of by raising Macho's guard to hit him in the gut again, then hitting him in the face before he ducks down. Punches 3, 4, and 5 are cancelled before he can throw them by hitting him in the gut. Then Macho stands still for his mini spin pattern. Turk unleashed a barrage of max damage star punches and punches to the face and gut, all while moving his guard around by pressing and releasing the up button at strategic times. In order to get all the punches in needed to knock him down,